Welcome to Esalen Live, where we chat with change agents and swim deep waters in our ongoing exploration of human potential. I'm your host, Christine Chen. Right now, Esalen is responding to the latest lockdown, a stay at home order for Monterey County, which goes into effect on Sunday night and lasts through January 10th. Our original plan today was to take a peek at the rituals of Esalen with Douglas Drummond. He's the director of healing arts and somatics. He designed an anointing ritual with the hot springs as we were hosting a limited number of guests for the past few months. We still do want to give you a sneak peek, but like many things these days, we have to pivot to share more of a different kind, a little bit about how you can create these kinds of rituals a la Esalen at home. Douglas Drummond joins us live from Esalen at the Baths. How are you, Douglas?
Hi, Christine. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, a bittersweet moment to hear about our lockdown that we're experiencing, but, just taking in the scene here and just being grateful for what is and staying in the moment now is important. But yeah, it's a special time for us to kind of reflect. But yeah, we're here now and just taking in the moment.
Yeah. Terry Gilby, General Manager and CEO, is going to be with us on Esalen Live tomorrow at 12:30 to give us more details about what this latest lockdown actually means. But for you today, as the Director of Healing Arts and Somatics, I definitely want to talk to you about what this lockdown means for the baths, for the Healing Arts program, just for the next couple of weeks. So much change right now. I'm sure you, like everyone else, is just trying to work with what we have. Can you let us in a little bit?
Yeah. Well, I think it's very much about, walking our walk. We've got to be change agents too. And it was a brief moment where we had our massage actually started, reinvigorated last Monday, and we've had our bathing happening for some weeks. And if anything, it's just that time, take a pause and to really regroup and look at, it was a wonderful experience. Now we can really garner a lot and learn. We know that the lockdown is, planned to be lifted sort of around the 11th of January. What can we use in that between time to refine our experience, even more, even better? And, safety is always the big paramount piece, and we're always ever learning to repivot and renavigate and what's happening. But, the feedback has been fantastic from the massage. I guess felt so safe. Our practitioners felt really taken care of. And I think that's really, really important. So we've got a great foundation to move from. And the baths will always sort of be their inherent grounding experience always. And so it's nothing but it's forward momentum. It's a little bit of a heartache to have to kind of close again, but we're going to reopen and embrace much better and stronger going forward.
Right. We're learning so much these days. And if we know anything about what we're
Yep.
trying to do at Esalen is just learn about ourselves, learn about each other, learn
Yeah.
how to be flexible, all these things. This
Yeah.
experience that you designed, the anointing with the rituals of Esalen, it sounds so cool when you told me about it. So I had to have you on and talk a little bit
Yeah.
about it. I know we can't do it for a while because of the lockdown, but yeah, as you make your way around there, I want to take us
Yes.
through a little bit of an experience with you so that we can also learn and reframe how we can do some of this at home. Self-care at home is so important right now. Tell us what you got there, Douglas.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, humbly, I think, I shouldn't invent any anointing piece, and the bathing rituals at Esalen have hark way, way, way back. But I think, just the collective inspiration, we sort of thought, well, how do we, we've got some time now with our bathing. How do we even refine it or just kind of add some little beautiful pieces to it? And so we just like embrace the senses. We thought, well, what are some of the essential oils that are really, endemic to the area? How do we really enhance that bathing ritual? So we work with some amazing collaborators to create some beautiful bathing salts, which are here that they're also really nice sort of exfoliant salts too that can be in the baths. And they're very, very mild too. So, after they've been in the water and dissolved and things, their scent sort of lingers, but it's very subtle. It's just a really like easygoing kind of piece. It's not an overload. Um, and then we have an oil too. So the idea was that guests could have a little bit of a bath salt type experience, kind of be in the moment, and then the oil and its an anointing type experience is like we put some intention behind it. It was a lot of it was to do around the gratitude recent celebrations in November, and gratitude too in a sense of what is truly grateful for, and perhaps for those that less fortunate or what has been. Really, it was in the eye of the beholder. but the oils were too, were kind of inspired by the scents around the area. It was an opportunity after you've been in the baths and having that sort of a little crusty, dry skin of being in the hot spring sometimes. How could you, have a little moisturizing, nourishing experience, but put an intention of self-love and care into it. And they were just like sweet little additions to it too. And we're learning a lot and building upon it. And the idea is that each month, one day a week, we would have a new sort of a ritual, some kind of anointing piece, whether using some of the botanicals that we've gathered here, from the garden, or actually creating some oils and salts and into like a product experience as well.
Hey, Douglas, I love that. And I'm yearning to get a little closer. And I'm pretty sure those of you on Facebook Live would get a little closer look as well and would love that. Peter is our guy behind the camera. Peter, I know we didn't plan this, but would you zoom in just a little bit so we could see a little bit more of the salts and the oils and the herbs from the garden? And I know we didn't
Yeah,
plan on this, so we'll just
yeah,
do what we can. Like we're pivoting,
yeah.
we're just doing our best. And
And we're
those
doing
of
a
you
little
who are
DIY.
watching this,
I totally bathe my fingers in the oil, so I can even just do a little bit of a smack up. But like the idea of putting a bit of heat between your hands. I'm a bit of a bull in a china cabinet when it comes to oils and essential oils, but I love it. I'm inspired by it. But it's taking a deep breath in the smell. And for me, really, right now is just really bringing gratitude to the past, the present, and into the future. And that's a really humbling piece to kind of bring some gratitude into too. So I know a lot of us are hurting right now, and there's a lot of unknown. But what are we grateful for, and how can we play and have a little bit of fun too?
I love it. If you wouldn't mind, what were you doing with your hands again there, Douglas? It was just bringing some heat between your hands. Show us what you were doing again.
Yeah, it's bringing a bit of heat between my hands, and and it's just kind of feeling that sort of cyclical motion. And I think also for me, in my hands and being a physical person, I'm putting some gratitude into my hands as well. And just it gives me a bit of sense of place. So I put a bit of heat between my hands and just let the kind of oil and let the salts kind of like dissolve and kind of like have their own little union in themselves. But the heat together really accentuates some of the essential oil too. And then taking that deep breath, just receiving and exhaling, just letting go. And it's
Right.
functional too. Again, it's a nice little moisturizer as well, but there's a ritualized experience and a bit like a dive, it just depends how deep you want to go, how deep your intention is. If it's something on the surface or really bringing something deep from inside and breathing into that and releasing it and embracing it and letting it go.
I love that as you call that out as a ritual because that is something that we can do at home as well with oils that we have at home. I put up
Yeah.
here on the screen the two blends that were created for this anointing
Yeah.
experience as part of the rituals of Esalen. Let me just read off for
Yeah.
you so you at home can hear what the contents of Big Sur Woods is one of the blends, not for sale yet, but was part of the ritual experience and then will be for sale soon. We hope. We're working on a lot of different things. Pine, cedar wood, black spruce, balsam fir, chamomile, and lime. So much earth in this blend. Douglas, can you explain? To me, this feels super grounding just as I look at the ingredients list.
Yeah. Well, I think, having two of them is it's a bit of a sensory experience in itself too. It's like hiking through the woods, and then coming into these beautiful meadows in Big Sur sometimes. And different strokes for different folks sometimes. And those are the inspirations and they're the charismatic sort of sense of the area like that. And giving options to some folks as well. And also it was just wonderful to kind of pique the curiosity and education aspect, as guests were trying to decode what were some of the scents and smells. We did just try to add in a couple of perhaps less known or more subtle scents like that, and just allowing guests to share their feedback and what could they detect and things. And it was a really fun experience as well. But they're all parts of discovery. They're all amazing array of senses and experiences that are inspired by the nature of the area. But we thought that these sort of two blends was a nice little way that we can start to kind of capture them and bring them into our rituals and experiences.
Right. The second blend feels so expansive, like you've been describing the meadows where you go into the sense
Right.
of place where there's a lot of spaciousness and bay laurel, eucalyptus, lavender. These are nourishing and then also more expansive breathing at the same time. That's also part of the rituals of Esalen, but
Yeah.
also the integration of a sense of place can also be so healing, I imagine. Can you tell us how that is when you feel like you're rooted somewhere or something ports you to a different place? When you smell something and you're transported, what does that do in the
Mm-hmm.
healing arts?
Yeah, well, I mean, it can be a humbling experience. I mean, I'm thinking right now of going through the wildfires and what we know of the meadows and taking a little walk last week and a hike, in the meadows were, burnt to the ground, but it's a reminder too of what were some of those senses in the past. And I think, that sensory or sense of place, playing with that beginning, middle, and end, sometimes it can evoke those experiences of, what does sense of place really truly mean to you, and whether it was a past experience, something to rekindle like senses and experience and our sensory awareness. What is perhaps something that's really bringing us in the present right now, and perhaps what's the future? I certainly enjoy and looking forward to the future of going through a beautiful lush meadow and be able to kind of pick up those senses right now. Right now, it's a very humbling one too of thinking of like where it's in its regeneration place right now. So I think that sense of place is really it's unique to the person, and we're here just to kind of create an opportunity for you to explore with open arms, in a really, really kind, compassionate, and really important, a really safe place right now.
I love that so much. And I know that this isn't just oils and salts. It's not like, hey, I'm going to go to a store and buy some things. This is really a practice. This is such a ritual rooted in a methodology that really is focused on self-care. And I know that you kind of consider this like the five pillars of the modern hot springs. But before we can even understand what hot springs and self-care and oils and salts can be in this anointment process, we do have to
Mm,
understand history. And I know that there's such a deep history in this process of anointing. Can you
mm,
describe a little bit?
mm.
Because I know that went into the planning of this and the design of this.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I entered that very humbly too, because there's a rich history of, Esalen, our place, and those that have been here before as well. So we just come into that of just really acknowledging that there's been so much tradition have gone, into the past, in the bars, and really when I really surmise it, what's important for me is just in reverence, in reverence for the history of being past. So when we're kind of creating these experiences, how do we really, really acknowledge that? And, when we go into the present right now, what do we carry forward? And, that's a humbling experience in itself. It takes a lot of patience and time, so I think that is the sort of I'd say the somatic aspect. When I think of history, I think of like of time and patience like that. So when we create something, what is the intention that really harks back to perhaps what honors that past piece, and how do we carry it forward right into the now?
Right, the inspiration, if you will. Like, what was it was Big Sur, the woods and the meadows that were the inspiration for these blends. What was
Yeah.
the inspiration for the anointing process? It was history, and was it anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I think with our massage practice, we do use oil in our practice like that. I think too practically as well, after spending a long time soaking in the baths, there is that need to apply oil and moisturize the skin like that too. So there's a bit of form and function there. But I think it's just a really intimate experience. It's a very, very gentle experience on the skin to use the oil like that. The senses themselves, it asks us to kind of like turn maybe within, for instance, and to kind of have a little self reflective like that. Um, so I think, probably subconsciously, there's a lot of input coming from the outside that kind of brings us to those places. But I think, there's just a beautiful way in which, that self care can be represented through something like applying an oil or running the bath, for instance. These are sort of things that we do as our sort of first steps of self care, which is so important as we're in the sort of slightly stressful survival feeling. How do we take care of ourselves and then lend that support to another, and then bring our perspective into the wider group? My relationship to myself, my relationship to another, and my relationship to the group.
Right. And in that practice, the way exactly that you described it, I know for me, I often find that there's great sanctuary in something that
Yeah,
I can rely on and something that I can count on. Can you describe how
yeah.
just the concept of sanctuary went into the designing of all of this and how we bring that into our own homes as well? This is like the Esalen way,
Yeah,
if you will.
sure, sure. Well, I think, the baths pre-COVID was a really busy sort of a social place, certainly when I was here a couple of years ago, and it was busy. And, as we sort of entered into our awareness around the pandemic and so forth and the social distancing by nature and design, there was, a smaller amount of people coming down to the baths as we work with our safety and requirements. So I think a lot of inspiration was like, wow, you know, how do we maneuver? How do we change with this beautiful part of the intensity of having so many people to being now very, very quiet? And what naturally came up really was like, whoa, it has really shifted into being such a sanctuary. And it was so calm and so peaceful that really you could just tune in so much and really bring on the nature part. And for me personally, like nature is my ultimate sanctuary. So how does that become an extension of my own work and leadership? But the bass and being down here in the water, there is that sanctuary type feeling. We're here to receive folks coming down to bathe. We're here to receive people to come down to massage. We want to create that type of sanctuary experience. So I think just by nature, it was like, what do we know about that? And our homes and all the change and being busy with sort of families and relationships and so much happening and working from home, for instance, how's our home changed from a sanctuary into its home office or into the big playground? Or how do we bring a sense of place, like a ritual, like an experience like this with oils and salts and running your bath? How do we reclaim perhaps that sense of sanctuary into our own homes? And if we can do anything by having experienced the baths, well, I mean, that will be we will be honored to be able to provide that for people.
Oh, 100%. And just even thinking about the idea of maybe doing it at Esalen or even doing this practice at home can bring on
Yeah,
a bunch of challenges. One of the ones that is
yeah,
a challenge at home is, kids and pets and real life. And how do
yeah.
we bring this to life, this sort of Esalen experience that we could just have a little bit of that magic at home? How do we even begin to start this ritual, even though we can't access the blends or go down to the bathhouse right now, but we can definitely, get a little piece of it throughout our day. And as you mentioned, it's so important. So how do we begin?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I find what is the golden thread that connects us all in many ways, and that is through the power of the breath, and if we can really, really, concentrate and bring our focus and intention into our breath, as a meditation, for instance, and a ritual, I think, that is a really beautiful way. If I was to humbly extend anything to anyone about that, about how to create sanctuary within their own homes, for instance, would be like, well, come back into the breath, and whether it's we're busy streets or or in the middle of the depth of silence in the woods, we can still kind of reclaim our breath and bring it back into us like that. And I think that that is a common denominator that we can share. And I think once we kind of connect with the breath, if we so wish to, we can invite an intention. We can perhaps use an oil or a ritual of some kind to kind of fully accentuate it. But I really do believe in the power of the breath, and that's so quintessential to our massage, both in how we give massages and also how we receive massages. So much of it is really how do we bring that common threads together, so that it works with our practice, what we're doing at Esalen, but ultimately, as we sometimes say, the retreat starts after the retreat ends. So how do we bring that back experience back again? Because we're here, at a function to support and nurture, this human potentialization piece. And so if we can offer some tidbits and create some experience, I mean, for that will be a great gift that we'll be very privileged and honored to share with people.
Yes, and it won't be long till we're back. We just have a few more months to hang on.
No,
There's some things that need to happen. I mean, we just
yeah,
pray.
yeah,
Patience is another piece of our practice, right? I want to show this like
absolutely.
yeah, right. And I want to show this really beautiful shot that was taken by our current teacher in residence, Robin Wilner. And Douglas, if you would come up closer to the camera, if you can, so I
Yeah,
can see your
of
face a
course.
little bit more. I do want to ask you this last
Yeah,
question here. Gosh, it's so
yeah.
beautiful. Thanks, Robin, for this picture. You know, I wanted to ask you, what is the one piece of self-care that keeps you exploring and transforming and just kind of helps you hold it together during this time? I mean, we have all our individual challenges, but collectively we're going through a lot that keeps starting and stopping and starting and stopping. And I know your practice is deep, so can you share a little bit of that with
Gosh.
us?
Yeah. Well, why don't we'll put something on the line here. I mean, I received an email from my father who was today was like, "Hey, Doug, I know you're holding a lot together for the family, and take care of you're the pilot of your family plane. Make sure you do take care of yourself like that." And it really stuck home. And for me, I think what I just do often is reminder and just relax and sink into that gratitude of how much support is there, and really just coming out sometimes with you catch your reflection, or you catch a wee moment, and just having a little mantra and saying that you are enough, that you are enough. I think that for me it is really prevalent in my meditation right now, that I'm enough.
Yeah.
And to share that with other folks too, and to feel that pressure, I'd love to be able to, whether we could be the catalyst to kind of send that support to. I know it's not easy. We're feeling the pressure, gosh. I think that this is part of Esalen's leadership too. We're stepping into this. We are enough. We're doing our best, and we've got a lot of things to look forward to.
Yeah, I think you said it really well. Thank you so much, Douglas. I can't wait till we can hang out again. It was so good to see you
I know.
again.
Thank you too,
Yeah.
Christine. Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
and
thank you
thank
so much
you.
to our wider community as well. And yeah, we're here and we're doing our best, and we can't wait to be able to open our doors again. Hopefully, our shelter in place, and we lift and we come back to a seamless process. However it is, we're going to be here, and we can't wait to take care of you.
Yeah, can't wait to come back to that view too. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Douglas.
Right.
Yeah.
My
Stay
pleasure.
connected,
Bye-bye.
everybody. We'll see you again, Douglas. Stay connected, esalen.org, and also on Facebook and Instagram. Have a great day, everybody.